Tobacco. I'm also a co-chair of the Tobacco-Free Solano organization, which is a part of Vibe Solano and Solano County Department of Health.
Wow, there's a lot going on there. And our other guest is?
Good morning. My name is Genesis Miguel. I'm a 19-year-old Vallejo resident, and I volunteer with Youth Tobacco Control Advocacy and Policy Project.
Wow, that's terrific. I mean, there's a lot going on there, as I can tell.
Yeah.
So, it's more of a anti-tobacco advocacy. What exactly is the gist of the organization, and what are you doing out there in the community to promote it?
Well, I was at a Stonewall Democratic Club of Solano meeting, which was on Zoom, and I saw a presentation from this organization. And when I was in law school back in the 90s, I started doing some advocacy, having lost my father at just the age of 50 from his smoking, and also found out that his mother died at 50, and it was also from her smoking. I never got to meet her. So after all these tragedies, I decided I had to do something. So on my law school newspaper, I started doing a lot of articles on the tobacco industry and hoping we could do something about it. And we've made some progress, but unfortunately, big tobacco's very insidious, and it's still targeting our youth. Even though we've made a lot of progress here in California, they're still targeting the queer community. LGBTQ people smoke at a much higher rate than the general population. And of course, unfortunately, they have gone over after people of color with menthol cigarettes and other types of marketing. So, and then, of course, with the proliferation of vape devices that are meant to look like highlighters and USB drives to avoid detection. I mean, Genesis can tell you some amazing stories of what she's experienced, even here at the Vallejo schools, with these kinds of devices.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah, definitely long history of tobacco industry targeting specific groups, even youth. Joe Camel, classic.
Yes.
Classic.
That's what my dad smoked.
Really?
Yes.
Unfiltered?
I don't know.
Because they came in the small packs, the unfiltered Camels and Luckies, you know? That's what the old men used to smoke when I was a kid coming up.
Well, I was a youth advocate like Genesis when my dad was smoking and I was learning about it in school. I would write these little signs and hang it on his nightstand that said, "Cancer cures smoking." And my dad thought that was really funny, but unfortunately it came to fruition.
Yeah, my aunt on my father's side, her and her husband, Aunt Ruth and Uncle George, smoked a lot. They were from that era. And my grandmother lived upstairs in the duplex and they lived downstairs. So you always could smell it when you came in as a kid. It was like, whoa. You know, I was like, oh, okay. You know, they came up in the 20s and 30s and 40s. That's when it was popular and popularized on, you know, movies at the time, and then into television. And 9 out of 10 doctors recommend Lucky cigarettes or whatever those advertisements were.
And they still slip it into movies. My best example is Avatar. I mean, the first Avatar, you've got Sigourney Weaver 500 years in the future as a doctor smoking a cigarette. What's that all about? Except I have a feeling somebody paid somebody to do that because that's anathema to me.
Well, it might have meant to be ironic. You never know.
And on a spaceship.
On a spaceship, of all things,
of course.
Too. Well, you know, in the opening segment of Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston is smoking a cigar in a spaceship.
Right. What could possibly go wrong?
I don't know. So, Genesis, what's your youth activization on this topic been?
Yes. So, early as elementary school, I witnessed a bunch of peers, secretly in the bathroom smoking vape, and I would say maybe in middle school is when it really, I started really noticing it in the locker rooms, the bathrooms, the classrooms, in the back of the school where nobody could really see. Mm-hmm. You would see different people just selling products to one another.
Really? Selling them?
8th grade, yes.
Interesting.
So, for me, I felt that kind of pressure, to, try it at least once because it's everybody else is doing it.
Sure.
Can I do it? And so when I got to high school, I went to Vallejo High School. Mm-hmm. It was just everywhere. People didn't care about hiding it. It was just, you would see a puff of smoke in the classrooms in front of the teachers.
It was all vaping. Interesting.
Vaping, yes. And it was everywhere. And so I wanted to, in high school, I was a creative student, and so I was part of the band, and unfortunately, due to COVID, I was not able to compete or anything, so I tried to seek different ways to kind of express my creativity. And so I thought, okay, what's this advocacy about? Because a lot of people, they use advocacy as like just speaking, but you can express advocacy in many ways. And so I did a program with Solano for before doing YTAP, Youth Tobacco Prevention. And so I used dance and my spoken word poetry to kind of express like not only tobacco prevention, but just advocating for youth and self-identification and whatnot. And so I kind of explored, and it was with YTAP that I was able to really learn about city council. I was learning more about city government, city leaders. And
Great.
Yeah, and I was able to talk to these people and learn firsthand, like, what are they doing about it? What are they talking to people my age about it? Because I didn't know anything about city council or anything. So I think it was really important to be that voice, because a lot of people, they're scared of speaking.
Yes.
So you just got to be that voice. And so I took initiative to learn more about my city council and tobacco prevention. And a lot of people, there's a misconception that around our work that we're trying to force just a tobacco-free life, but at the end of the day, we really want to educate people. Educating, not forcing them.
Right. So when I think a very interesting part of your what you're saying right now is that it led you to start being more involved in civics here in the city, and you start going to city council meetings and learning about how the local government works. And as you were going on that journey, from what I gleaned, as you started as a anti-tobacco activist, did you find that as you got involved and watched the city council and started meeting the players there, you sort of broadened your vision of other topics and other things?
Yeah, of course. I occasionally go to the city council meetings with my boss, and we take notes of what's happening. I didn't know that the Mare Island Bridge was under construction. It's like those little things you want to know, because it's like, what's going on in your city?
Yeah, exactly. And we promote that a lot here on Vallejo Project on the radio, of getting people involved in, and I think that's a great example of how your particular passion led you to the city council, led you to city government, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, hey, wait a second, what else is going on here? What's going on? As Linda Perry said. So, I mean, the advocacy that you or anybody can do, I think eventually leads you to some sort of civic interaction. Because, you see vaping in the schools, you've had a personal experience with it, and, you're trying to get that message out there, but then there's only so much you can do to spin that story in people's heads. Now, when you were doing the poetry and the dance, like, sort of what was it that, how did you get the message across doing that?
I would say the dancing was more of the other advocacy part. So, there was this event. It was an art summit for the Solano County, and it was held at the fairgrounds. And so I danced to display, a lot of pressure to be a certain thing, or you're expected to be one thing, especially if you're from a Vallejo school. There's this certain oh, they're bad kids and stuff like that. So I use that dance to kind of show I not everybody's like that. And so I use more of spoken poetry to use that. For me, I've been writing since elementary school. I love reading, writing, and so I use metaphors, any piece of poetry I can use. I don't directly just say, oh, tobacco's bad. I used creative ways to do that, and it was always a good way to kind of a lot of I want to talk about a lot of students. They use these tobacco products as a stress reliever, and so I would say a lot of that advocacy and just exploring my creative roots and whatnot has been my stress reliever for any times like studying.
There you go. So you replace what normally someone would use vaping or smoking to relax, deal with the stress, but you're doing it and saying, oh, you can do it in an artistic way.
Yeah.
You can write something, you can perform something, you can create something as a stress reliever rather than finding yourself reach for a cigarette or a vape. That's very interesting. And of course, we all know that, especially from my generation, high school, go up to the hill, have a cigarette. You're one of the cool kids, or kids who had parents who smoked. Well, I got my dad's pack of Cools today. It was sort of that rebellious, differentiating ourselves from the adult or trying to make ourselves a little more adult. Now, you're saying that these days it's not so much that, but it's more of a stress relief.
Yeah. And so not only there's different ways, different reasons, but in ninth grade in particular, I was highly involved in the Filipino club. And so there was a lot of students who came from the Philippines and just a lot of minority groups. And so I would constantly see a specific group from the Filipino community. I would see them smoke cigarettes, and they would do it because it was cool and they fit in. And so it just kind of goes to show that some students, they do it because they think it's cool.
Right.
And so just, again, peer pressure. And so...
so there was an opportunity there to do sort of a reverse peer pressure where you can say, hey, all right, I get it, that you're trying to be cool, but you know what's even cooler? Doing something else. Yeah. So that's really good. So what else in the community? What kind of events or?
Well, actually, here in Vallejo, with Genesis' help and that of other youth advocates, our coalition. She said she's with YTAP, which is part of Bay Area Community Resources, and the other two organizations I've mentioned, Vibe Solano and LGBTQ minus Tobacco. We actually presented to City Council last year and unanimously got passed the smoke-free multi-unit housing ordinance. Yes. Ultimately, that was voted on unanimously by City Council, and we're very proud of that because that is a health equity issue. And the key to this is understanding that smoke is second and third hand smoke, and there's even something called fourth hand smoke, but all passive smoke is detrimental to people who can't just necessarily pick up and move to another place. And if they're in a multi-unit building where their window is open or someone's smoking out their patio, the smoke can come through. It comes through the electric sockets, and it affects the health of the people who aren't just necessarily have the means to pick up and relocate every time someone next to them smokes. So that was passed successfully here in Vallejo, and that is that was a very key thing. So off that and the momentum of Prop 31, I think that passed last year. Thank you. I wasn't right. I forget that number.
What is Prop 31?
Prop 31 was a very progressive proposition here in California that banned most, not all, but most flavored tobacco products.
That's what that was about.
Yeah, and it passed.
Tobacco.
Yeah, it passed, and of course, the tobacco industry was at the ready. It did get rid of menthol cigarettes, but tobacco industry immediately had non-menthol, quote unquote, products that were meant to continue to target people of color with their product, and those were at the ready and in the stores.
Non-menthol isn't that just regular cigarettes?
They have some kind of flavoring that you can add afterwards. It's very insidious, and the packaging alone is an insult. But unfortunately, even tobacco retailers, as we did a survey in January after the ordinance passed, the proposition passed, they were still selling some flavored products that had been banned. So there's definitely needed to be more education, and that's why we're here today, mostly to talk about what we're now working on in City Council. And that's the tobacco retail license, a TRL. And a TRL is a revenue neutral way that the tobacco retailers, of which there are over 90 here in Vallejo, think about that. And these, there's barely any state funding for enforcement. So they've been getting away with high numbers of sales. And of course, other local jurisdictions like Benicia, American Canyon, I'm not sure about American Canyon, but Benicia has a TRL, a tobacco retail license. So guess what? Teens from those areas that want to buy tobacco products know that they can come to Vallejo, and their chances are 1/3 or 50% that a tobacco retailer in this city will sell to them. And Genesis has a pretty good story as a decoy to give you an example
of that. As a decoy?
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Yeah. Undercover.
Yeah,
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it felt like that sometimes. No,
Did you have to wear a fedora and a trench coat?
Oh, no, just regular clothes. Okay. It was all hidden. So yeah, I was a youth decoy for some time, and so I would get a call from local police department or agency, and they would say, this time, are you available? And so I would say yes, and there was a particular time that really stuck out to me. It was in Vallejo. We were doing the checks, and I went into a store, and I confidently said, "Hey, can I get so-and-so name?" It was an e-cigarette, a flavored e-cigarette, and I can't remember.
I don't know. I personally don't know anything about that, so I'm just going with the story.
Yeah, electronic, but and I said, "Can I get this?" And he said, "Sure." He didn't really care, and he said, "You're 21, right?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he gave it to me, and I walked away with it.
All right, so it's more like when the ABC does decoys. They'll walk into a bar, can I get a beer? If they don't check the ID, then they get tagged.
So it was a interesting experience, to see the different reactions and whatnot.
Have you ever felt you're in danger or anything at doing those kind of things?
No, I
There's always an adult with you, right?
There's always two officers with you, undercover officers.
Oh,
with
okay,
you.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Is it as a paid position?
You get everything. So one of my favorite perks of being a decoy was
I love this story.
One of the undercovers would go with me, and they would buy different store items, and I would get to keep all of them at the end of the day, every single
candy and stuff.
Yeah, candy, just all the food. So
so you got paid in candy.
Yeah, no, I also had a stipend as well, but it was awesome.
Wow,
but
interesting.
In that, I was able to talk to the city council members and tell them my story, and it was it really supported us in in just the overall presentation. All the city council members are for it. They want to push forward with the TRL. So.
That's an excellent point. So we presented, Genesis and I presented with our coalition in, was it April or May? Yes. And the mayor was directed city staff, city manager and city attorney. City attorney has actually done a TRL in another jurisdiction before. And so we've been meeting with them regularly and working out. But I want to point out that Mayor McConnell directed them with the support of the city council to make as robust a TRL as possible. So there are many elements to this tobacco retail license, and it can do a lot of amazing things to thwart the sale of tobacco. It's already illegal to sell to minors under 21.
It's already
let me make that clear. But there's no enforcement. So this would put teeth to it. And given our city's, revenue issues, this is a revenue neutral policy.
Now, when you say revenue neutral, what does that mean?
I'd love to explain. So the fees that these tobacco retailers get, which I like to say is the privilege of selling poison, okay, the fees for that actually funds the code enforcement that is, so it actually offsets the cost of the code enforcement. So the city pays nothing.
So it would offset the cost of, say, when Genesis goes to the tobacco store.
Yes, but we would have, so the youth decoy is one program that will probably continue on, but there needs to be a mandate in the TRL that code enforcement actually does these spot checks at least once a year, we ask, that with each tobacco retailer. The other elements that a tobacco retail license can do is it can also prohibit pharmacies, if you can imagine, some of these tobacco retailers are actual pharmacies, and some of the big chain pharmacies have already opted not to sell tobacco products.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going to the same place to get your medicine and get your cigarettes?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
CVS,
unfortunately, it's a
whatever.
reality.
Yeah.
But a TRL could prohibit that. And then the other tobacco retailers, the mom and pop shops that wish to continue to sell these tobacco products, just need to adhere to keep their license, and they're paying for that. So it costs the city nothing, and there's also other things that can be done to curtail the purchase by youth, which is minimum pack sizes. Minimum pricing, these kinds of things. But this is already in the works, thank goodness, because our city council is forward thinking on this. I'm very pleased to say we've met with some, Genesis and I and our coalition, we've actually talked directly with some of the city council members individually about this. And so we know that we have a lot of support. And
what kind of pushback have you gotten? Because obviously, I would think that the retailers are saying, hey, wait a second. Now you're imposing additional financial burden on us. We're already adhering to the law, except if our clerk is too lazy to ask, and that's, what can we do? And, we don't want kids to smoke, but this is our business. You're hurting our business. What is the response to something like that if the retailers are up in arms about it?
Well, it's, I didn't come up with their business plans. If they wanted to sell tobacco products, then this is just the way it has to be. And they've gotten away with many years of without enforcement. And these statistics that we have here of the 45% of retailers in 2018 selling to youth and 30% just in 2020, these are sky high compared to any other Bay Area jurisdiction. Right. And like I said, our neighbors don't sell it, so at least in very small numbers by comparison. So the youth are onto us. If they're not selling to each other, they're going to come to Vallejo, and we need to be because we have a city council that's in favor of this, and we're very close to hopefully finishing the ordinance language. We ask that people support this coming up at city council in an upcoming city council meeting, the final vote.
Oh, and when is that going to be? Is that scheduled yet?
It is not agendized quite yet, but we were told originally it might be October, but it might slip into one of the early November.
Oh, so it's coming right
meetings.
up, though.
Yes, and so the more support that we can get, and again, I want to stress that it's important that we have that mandatory enforcement. We may have a staffing shortage at the moment, but we need to write this ordinance for the future and for the future generations. We can't have a toothless ordinance passed that doesn't have any mandate of these checks, or the retailers will continue to do what they're doing.
Okay, all right. So where can people go to find out more about what you guys are doing, boots on the ground? Okay,
so the three websites that I'm referring to are lgbtq-tobacco.org. That's a Bay Area-based organization that works here in Solano County, Contra Costa, San Francisco, and Alameda counties. The one that Genesis works with, the YTAP program, is with Bay Area Community Resources. That's BACR.org. And Vibe Solano is our Solano Department of Health. That's the one that I'm the co-chair of the Tobacco Free Solano program, vibesolano.com. Those three sites are places where you can get information. And, of course, I encourage everyone to be like Genesis and me and nerd out over these city council meetings. I watch every minute of every one, even if it's 7 hours long. And find out how you can change your community, and that's what I'm so proud of. Yeah,
that's what we're all about here at Vallejo Project: learning how to change your community
in your own way.
In your own way, absolutely,
for the better.
Of course, for the better. How to change your community in your own way for the better. That's what it's all about here. 99.5 FM KZCT, and we're going to change things for the better here. We're going to encourage those shiny, happy people out there right here on Vallejo Project 89.5 FM KZTT. We have our fabulous guests here today, and why don't you reintroduce yourselves to the studio audience who might be just tuning in?
Sure. I'm Joseph Hayden, co-chair of Tobacco Free Solano, and also a volunteer with LGBTQ-Tobacco.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Genesis Miguel. I'm a 19-year-old Vallejo resident, and I volunteer with the youth group Tobacco Control Advocacy and Policy Project.
Now, we've had a very interesting conversation so far, and part of it is about what kind of advocacy and events and awareness that's going on in the community based on this. So you've got some interesting stuff coming up, I hear.
Yeah, so for the second year in a row, LGBTQ minus tobacco has been invited back by the principal and some of the staff to James Hogan Middle School on October 11th, which is National Coming Out Day. What we do is we go there and table during their lunch hour and show them the negative repercussions of smoking and tobacco addiction. We've also done a health fair day at what's that high school on the hill? Jesse Bethel, yes,
Jesse
thank
Bethel,
you.
yeah.
And so that's coming up October 11th, and I just want to encourage everyone to stay tuned for that upcoming City Council meeting where this will be agendized. And for those who want to keep tabs on it, you can go to the City of Vallejo website to subscribe for the announcements for the regular City Council meetings. And they release the agenda for each of these Tuesday. It's like every other Tuesday around that, but they release the agenda the Thursday before. So you can see if this is going to be put on the agenda in the upcoming weeks. I'll definitely be there the night that it's voted on.
Sure.
But I want to encourage everyone to also email their city council and mayor about this issue and that you're in support of a robust TRL for our city. We deserve it. And if we pass it the way that we have been directed to by the mayor, or I should say the city staff, uses the correct language, we could be a beacon for the whole Bay Area and a model.
Wow.
For because we have an opportunity to go from the dark ages, if you will, to have a modern TRL that incorporates all the gaps that were missing from that Prop 31. We could cover the other flavored tobacco products that weren't covered, and we could really curtail addiction and lots of detrimental health problems, which apropos of that, we were talking a little while ago about the relaxation that people sense that they get when they smoke cigarettes. I want to remind people that they're only relaxing because their blood vessels are relaxing because they were constricted in the first place because they're absorbing nicotine. So there is a false sense, and this is how the addiction works. So it's very insidious. The nicotine in these products, and all of these products, they relax your blood vessels, but when they're not getting that nicotine fix, the blood vessels constrict. So it is an artificial relaxation. That relaxation is not missing before one starts. So just want to clarify that, but I agree with Genesis Miguel over here. The best way to get a fix is to do other things that can be stimulating in your life.
And thus things like even walking outside in the fresh air, yoga.
We live in a beautiful area. Let's take advantage of it.
There you go.
Year round.
There you go. And then on your side, like what kind of activities and things that the youth can participate in? Not that they can't participate in the city council, and we certainly encourage that, but what kind of things are you promoting?
So I always first encourage to learn about what tobacco is. That's where you start. Just what is tobacco? What chemicals are in it? Who's selling it? Just educating yourself first before stepping in, so you have at least a little bit of knowledge. But it's always good just practicing and getting it. So for YTAP, what we're doing right now is we're in the phase where we're doing media campaigns.
Oh, wow.
And so the reason we're doing media campaigns is because a lot of youth are on social media.
Right.
And so we meet weekly, and we have this Google document where we put our different ideas, like like catchy phrases. I don't know. Fun facts.
Memes, perhaps.
Yeah.
Sound bites.
Just different video ideas that they can do, and for me, I haven't been as involved because I've been focused on different events and stuff like that. But right now, we're just in that phase, and there's not events going on, but I definitely encourage to encourage others to look at the agendas and see what's going on. And if there's it doesn't even have to be tobacco prevention, but it's highly recommended. If there's a topic, just go for it. The city council members, they only really see older people, and so seeing just a young face, it just brings them joy. And so
great.
It doesn't matter what it is. If it's something you're interested in, go for it. Go to a city council meeting.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it, there is different ways. You can go through Zoom and you can raise your hand. And so I would just say, just put yourself out there. Put yourself out there. And
that's really the key. Is something that we promote a lot here on the Vallejo Project is putting yourself out there. You know, it's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to feel, like I'm an advocate for
and you
blah,
don't know
blah,
what
blah.
you're doing. It's fine.
It's okay. Just get out there, and you'll meet like-minded people who will guide you and get you up to speed.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And how did you two end up getting together as advocates?
Well, fortunately, LGBTQ minus tobacco put us in touch, and they very wisely saw the how astute all these youth advocates were, and having them. I mean, this is not about my generation. I mean, the median age for people who start smoking, like my father, is age 12. He grew up in Hawaii, and he was
right. I always thought that was in the deep dark past.
We're not concerned about telling adults what to do, and as Genesis said, this is about not addicting our youth and having more generations of people who are suffering from nicotine addiction in the future.
True. That's one way. Because when I was coming up, you always heard the old guys say, I started smoking when I was 12, when I was 8.
If they're 90 and still smoking, I tell those people, you can also survive if you walk with blindfolds across the highway, but are you going to try it?
Right, there you go.
So, I mean, statistically, that's just, irrelevant. So, I'm concerned. I'm a father, and I will be a grandfather hopefully in a couple of years. So, I mean, I am thinking about the future generations, and I want to leave this world in a better place. And, my daughter didn't get to meet her grandfather, and I didn't get to meet my grandmother because of smoking. But for smoking, we would have had many more years with our family members.
There you go. And that's a great note to take out there, because, it's a big picture. It's a big picture topic, but it's a small picture topic. It's a family topic. It's relating it's your day-to-day life. I mean, I miss my great aunt because she died from smoking, and you've got relatives who passed that you didn't get a chance to meet. It hits home.
Yeah, it's personal, but it's also societal. I don't understand. I always use the example, not to get back to sci-fi, but I am a sci-fi geek.
Sure.
If aliens came here tomorrow and we said, we take these products that addict us and we just shove them down into our lungs and these little particulates, and our lungs struggle, but, it makes us feel good for a moment. They're like, what the heck are you thinking? I mean, it doesn't make sense. You're shortening your lives intentionally. But I understand addiction. I know my father struggled and tried to quit. He hated it toward the end, but he just could not stop.
Interesting. Yeah, the alien analogy there is an apt one. When you take that moment to extrapolate, even if it's it's kind of science fiction-y, but it's stepping back from what you're looking
objectivity
at. Objectivity is the key.
Go, yeah.
Exactly. And do you use that when you're doing your art and your dance and maybe even some music to bring that message out?
Yeah, just like different, just different things. But I also want to bring back to that like personal story touch. Everybody has their own story, and I feel like a lot of people like setbacks. What are our setbacks? I think a big one is just people who have the addictions, tobacco addictions, and you'll see it in city council meetings, opposing to it, and a lot of times our reactions, like 100%, honestly, our reaction is not to like judge or anything. We're just like, that's their point of view, because they're not the ones to blame. A lot of people they blame the person for the addiction, but it's the product.
It's big tobacco as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, the industry,
the marketing, all that stuff, and
deep pockets.
I feel like a big part of this is just learning everybody's stories and how they got to it and what we can, just hearing everybody. Just.
That's it's a very good point. It's like removing the shame someone could feel for, I started smoking, but, I feel like an idiot for doing it. And you can say, wait a second. This was what the whole idea was when you got into it. So don't feel shame. Don't feel embarrassed about it, but hey, here's an opportunity to do something about it.
Yeah, and I do want to point out we have lots of smoking cessation tools that are much more effective these days, and there are also medications that are much more effective for those who are interested. And those resources can also be found on the websites that I listed. So, we're all for that, but we're here about prevention of addiction of youth and the sale to those youth, which is already illegal, let me remind people.
Great. Well, it's yeoman's work. It's always a lot of, like I say, pick and shovel work. A lot of the going to city council meetings, meeting, the kids and talking to them and doing art and outreach that really starts to make the difference. And it's a day-to-day effort. Sometimes that little incremental bit that someone's doing for a particular cause seems like, I just did so much. I just did a little bit today. Is it even making a difference? But it's additive. It all adds up. Yeah. So we're definitely say right on. What a great programs you guys have. And maybe we got some callers coming in after the top of the hour. Kids, hold your horses. We'll be getting to you. So once again, tell us the folks out there listening where they can go on the interwebs to find out more.
Yes, so LGBTQ-tobacco.org, Bay Area-based organization fighting in many counties here in the Bay Area. VibeSolano.com, it's the Solano Department of Health. And Bay Area Community Resources, that's BACR.org.
And did you have...
not at the moment. No.
Oh, so when you're working with the other youth and you're working on social media, so where can people go on social media to find out more about what you're up to?
I would have to search.
Okay. But just get on in the Twitterverse and the Facebook
Instagram,
and all that.
yeah.
Instagram? Instagram is the key place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, those websites do have social media links.
Okay, there you go. All right. So thank you so much for being here on Vallejo Projects today. We appreciate it. You're part of the community. You're part of what we're all trying to do out there. Do good for the youth. Bring them up. Educate them. Because education's the key. Knowledge is power. If you know what's going on, then you don't get fooled. And we really appreciate that. You're coming out here to Vallejo Project Radio. We're here getting up to the top of the hour right now, 8:58 on 89.5 FM, KZCT, OZCAT Radio. 72 degrees out there. Another nice day out here in Vallejo. The fog's burning off. So whether you're heading out to work, heading downtown, or just heading out, stick with us here on Vallejo Project. We got new stuff coming up. We've got a contest coming up. And you never know what's going to happen because we never know what's going to happen. And if someone's trying to sell you some vapes or cigarettes, just tell them, I can't go for that.